Horas, welcome to Pastors International Club, Indonesia. It's so good to contact with all of you, have communication with you, my old friends and my old Pendeta friends in PIC. I wish I could be with you today, but due to my commitments in other countries, due to have to train pastors in other countries, this is the best way in the 21st century to maintain constant communication. At the end of this session, I hope we can have some interaction where you can ask questions and share your opinions, and we can learn from one another. Today's topic is on leadership in the 21st century. And we live in a century that's so challenging. Everywhere we see things getting more and more. We have more cell phones, we have more things to play with, things to amuse us, but the only thing that we don't seem to have more is leadership. We all know that if you have a good leader, you have a good country. You have a good leader, you have a good business. You have a good father, you have a good family. Similarly, if you have a good church leader, a good pendeta, then we will have a good and strong church. Now, today, most pastors feel, most pendetas feel, that they are not sufficiently trained to be effective in the 21st century. Now, we do not have surveys for Indonesian pastors, but we have surveys for other countries. For example, in the United States, about 90% of pastors feel that they are undertrained for their job as a pendeta. Now, this obviously is very, very frightening. I mean, we know American pendetas usually not only have a S1, but they also have an S2. And even with the S2, they feel undertrained for the job. What about us in Asia, where most pendetas only have an S1? Now, would you want to fly in an aeroplane where the pilots admit, hey, 90% of us are undertrained to fly an aeroplane? Who would dare fly in an aeroplane if pilots feel they are not sufficiently trained to fly a plane? Would you go to a hospital where the surgeons do the operation for you, say, hey, 90% of us feel we are not sufficiently trained to do surgery? I don't think any of us would fly a plane or go to a hospital if 90% of the people going to do something for us don't know what to do. But that's the truth. In most surveys, most pendetas admit we are not sufficiently trained for our job. All right? So the question is, why? Why is it in this 21st century there is such a large number of pendetas who feel so helpless, so unable to help their churches? The reason is we live in the 21st century. And I believe this century is what the Bible calls the last days. And actually, the last days were already prophesied by Nabi Daniel. Daniel, in the last chapter of the book of Daniel, verse 4, chapter 12 and verse 4, tells us some very interesting things about the last days. All right? So in English, let me say, time of the end. That means last days. Two things will stand out. Number one, many shall run to and fro. In other words, number one, men will travel. Now, we know that in our grandfather's time, hardly anybody ever left his kampong. If he left his kampong, it was a big occasion. Today, many young people just travel back and forth. They go to Jakarta, they go to Bandung, they go everywhere to study, they go to Singapore for a holiday. You know, even ordinary people are going to Medan, they're taking the train, they're taking the taxi, going to a new city. Traveling is normal. Unless you cannot walk, unless you are so old, everybody travels. Now, up to our grandfather's time, traveling was a very rare luxury. In fact, until the invention of the train, invention of the motor car, the mobile, even a king, the greatest king in the world, the fastest he could travel was a fast horse. That's all. He could never travel faster than a fast horse. But about 150 years ago, everything changed. Today, we think a train is so slow, a mobile is so slow. We want to go on an aeroplane. All right, so number one, Daniel tells us in the last days, men will travel to and fro. Remember this, when men travel, they see new things. They learn new things. They experience new things. They bring back new knowledge. And then the second part says, and knowledge shall be increased. Wow, this is another thing we now realize. In our grandfather's time, most people had no idea what was happening in Jakarta, what was happening in Bandung, Surabaya. Unless it's a very big thing, nobody had an idea what was happening even in the next kampong. Today, we know everything about anywhere in the world. We know there's an earthquake thousands of miles away. In minutes, we will know it. All right? So, information is increasing, and with information comes knowledge. So, let's look at what we learn as the doubling of human knowledge. Humans accumulate knowledge. They learn from one another. They write down what they learn. The next generation reads what they write down, and we learn more and more from one generation to another generation. All right? It's very different from animals. Okay? You look at the birds. For thousands of years, birds build the same nest. They don't make bigger nests, multi-storied nests, air-conditioned nests. They don't. From thousands of years ago, the bird builds the nest the same way. They don't accumulate knowledge how to build a better nest. Humans today, very different. How our ancestors live, we don't live that way anymore. Our homes are improvements. We learn, you can have tap water. You can have electricity. You can have air, AC. You can have all these things. You can have a television in your house. All right? And all these things are because of human knowledge. But let me just show you some statistics. And you can get these statistics on internet. All right? From the time of Adam until about 100 years ago or so, 200 years ago, it took 100 years for humans to double their knowledge. In other words, humans' knowledge about agriculture, how to plant rice. They improved, but it took 100 years to learn twice as much about rice planting as people 100 years ago. Medicine. Doctors learn new ways of treating people. But it took 100 years for them to learn twice as much as a doctor 100 years before. But as we moved on in time, By 1945, after the war, human knowledge doubled every 25 years, 4 times faster. People learned more, people wrote down more, people read more, and people knew more. Then, until 2 years ago, knowledge doubled every year. So every year, doctors know twice as much as doctors who graduated 1 year earlier. A man who makes iPhones knows so much more what his how to make a better iPhone, better electronics, right? A Samsung or whatever. So we see how it has moved from 100 years, knowledge now gets faster accumulation, and 1 year. It is estimated, all right, that in 8 years' time, 8 years from now, knowledge will increase very, very fast. And I've asked many Panditas, how fast do you think knowledge would double in 2026? And most of them would say, wow, maybe every month we will double our knowledge. Some will say, no, that's too slow. We will double it every week. Well, the truth is, according to most experts, they believe that human knowledge will increase every 12 hours. Wow, what does that mean? It means when you go to bed as a doctor, you know so much about this operation, about this medicine. Then you go to bed, you sleep, you get up, you have your breakfast, you go to the office, 12 hours later, you only know half of what you should know because new discoveries have come up, new medicines have come up, new ways of operating have come up. Every 12 hours, there is so much more information, so much more knowledge that you become out of date by the time you went to bed and wake up. Is this surprising? No, because Daniel, 3,000 years ago, predicted it. Man will run to and fro. Knowledge will increase. In fact, it will explode. All right? So what does that mean for us? Let's just see a practical example. You will see in this screen a building. All right? This building is 57 stories tall. Right? Maybe the tallest in Indonesia is only about this height. Now, this was built in China, 57 stories. Do you know how many days it took to build a 57-story beautiful building, perfectly completed, in China? You would hardly believe it, because I've asked many Panditas to guess. They say 2 years, 1 year. Oh, China is very fast, 1 year. Well, if you go on internet, you can check this out. Just type 57-story building built in 19 days. This is how knowledge changes things. Knowledge of how to use machinery, how to have new types of cement, how to have new types of engineering, and every 3 days, a new floor was added. 19 days, 57 stories. Now, if you don't know how to build this way, very soon, you're out of business because this knowledge is freely available. It is open to you whether you want to learn it or don't want to learn it. All right? So having understood how men will run to and fro and how knowledge will increase, how are we as Panditas going to succeed as good leaders in these amazing days? Can we continue the old ways? Yes, you can. Like this builder, you can build the old way. Take 10 years to build this building. You'll have no business. Nobody would come to you. Nobody would bother with you because they can get a Chinese company and do it fast. Same with pendetas. If you want to do the old way, what is going to happen? Soon, nobody's going to come to church. They will find other ways to find out about God, to learn about God, to learn about the gospel. All right? There are better ways. Okay? So there are 6 things every pendeta in the 21st century must have to succeed. All right? So what are these 6 things? Number 1, you must not be frightened of change. You must say, Daniel said, change will come fast, because when knowledge increases, new ways of doing things will be needed. So number 1, you must embrace change. Number 2, technology. You must optimize technology. All right? So, God has given us so many amazing things in this world that make our life easier. For example, today I'm talking to you. I'm using technology. I'm in Singapore. You're in Indonesia. All right? I'm using technology to bring this message to you. All right? I'm optimizing technology. Number 3, you must love learning. In the past, when you graduate, you learn something. When you graduate, you say, whoa, I have all I need. Sorry, by 2026, all you know will be out of date tomorrow morning. New ways will come up. If you're an engineer, you say, I learned engineering. I come from the best engineering school. Sorry, tomorrow morning when you wake up, what you learn in university is out of date. All right? So you must keeping up learning. Number 4, you must communicate differently. In the past, people were very happy to sit in a classroom, listen to a boring teacher, all right, and for 30 minutes sit down and take notes. Today, sorry, young people, you see all the children, you cannot keep their attention. They keep learning, doing other things, playing with their cell phones, and they have very short attention spans. Number 5, you need to build partnerships. PIC is a classic case of partnerships. Indonesia, Singapore, we are working together, different churches here, different pendetas from different churches, learning from one another, hopefully cooperating with one another and doing more and more. And lastly, we must be willing to move. You cannot say, I'm a Medan boy, I never leave Medan. I'm a Sianta boy, please, this is my place, I don't want to go anywhere. All right? If you belong in that way, you will be left behind. Nobody would bother to follow you. All right? So leadership needs these 6 things. So let's just take the first one, embrace change. Okay? Now, a lot of pendetas are frightened. How can we change? The Bible never changes. That's true. Principles in the Bible never change. The gospel never changes. But how we share those principles need to change. During your grandfather's time, how did the pendeta share the gospel? He probably had to tell someone because your grandpa probably couldn't read. He had to hear a story. He had to hear it spoken to him because you give him a piece of paper. No use. He cannot read. By the time it was your papa's time, you don't tell the story. You bring him to read the Bible and say, you see, Jesus, Son of God, died for our sins. Can you see this? Can you see John 3:16? Can you read it? Can you memorize it? Your papa's time. Today, How do we do it? We use in focus. The same words, John 3:16. It's not on a piece of paper. It's not talking to your grandpa because he cannot read. Now it's an in focus. It's on the screen. And everybody says, whoa, that's John 3:16. Now, the principles have never changed. God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. That you cannot change. But how you share that good news changes. From talking to your grandfather, from showing a piece of paper to your father who can read, and now from in focus in the church. All right? So we see here, we must not be afraid of change. Okay? Now, the truth is, it's very difficult to change. Because to change needs a process in our brain that we do not have by nature. All right, let me explain this. To learn is natural. A child learns. A child watches, he learns. It's automatic. You don't have to tell a child, learn. He watches, he imitates, he learns automatically. We have a natural learning ability in our brain. But to unlearn what we learn, how to remove the old things so we can put new things, we do not have a natural delete button in our brain. On your computer, you have a delete button. Old things you don't want, old photographs you don't want on Facebook, delete. Pop, it's gone. 1 second, it's gone. You can put new photos in it. In your brain, you don't have a delete button. Things get stuck there. And you don't know how to unlearn, right? So if you cannot unlearn old things, how can you then relearn new things? So this process of unlearning is so important in the 21st century because of new information, new ways. We have to stop the old ways and then put the new ways in. But we don't have the capacity naturally to unlearn. We need to ask God for grace. God, help me to put away the old things so that I can learn new things that are more effective. All right? So, for many people, they just cannot unlearn. In fact, if you study human history, the strongest man in the world long ago was a strong man. He used his muscles. He controlled the world with his muscles. Then when reading and writing became more common, a few hundred years ago, the strong man is no more the powerful man. The smart man is the powerful man. He can learn many things. He can remember many things. Today, who is going to be the most effective leader? Not the strong man. No use. Machines can do better work than your muscles. Not the smart man who can remember things. Everything is on internet. You don't need to remember so many things. The man who will lead the 21st century, whether a nation, a church, or a company, will be the man who can learn new things, unlearn it when it's out of date, and relearn newer things. So the capacity to learn is natural. To unlearn is not natural. To relearn is natural. But we must first clear this brain of ours. Okay? So, if today some of you are here struggling, wow, this is new stuff, I don't like it, it's natural. Because you don't have to unlearn what you're familiar with. Let me give you an example. Many of you know me. I used to carry a cane. For 5 years, I walked with a cane because I have a hip problem. About a year ago, I went for a hip replacement. They put a metal inside my hip. All right? Now, when I needed to have that surgery, I had many of my classmates tell me, they are now professors, expert surgeons, and they told me, hey, I'll do your surgery for you free. And they are big names, they are famous people. They are the number one in their department in the hospitals. But I did not go to these guys. Why? Because they are like me, 71 years old. As a 71-year-old, when I was in medical school, I learned surgery with the old ways. I use a knife, maybe I'll use a laser now, maybe I use certain things, but newer things have come up. And I chose for my surgery a young surgeon, about 40 years old. Of course, he's not my friend, so he would charge me. And he charged me $33,000 for the surgery. Now, I can get free from my old friends. I have to pay $33,000 from this newer, younger surgeon. What did I choose? I chose the younger guy because I know he uses the latest techniques. He uses the latest replacements. After 2 days after my surgery, I could move around. Now, if my older friends had done it, I'd probably take a week. And the success may not have been as good because they were using older methods, older replacements. Now, why did this old surgeon not want to learn the new methods? It's normal. The old surgeon is so comfortable. He's been doing this old way for 40 years. It has succeeded. It's not bad. It's pretty good. He made a lot of money from it. He's so familiar, you can close his eyes, he can do the surgery. Will he want to say, no, I'm going to stop that, I'm going to learn a new way? And then when you learn a new way, how do you know you're going to succeed? When you start from scratch, even the young doctor knows more than you because you're new in this. All right? So most surgeons prefer to take the easy way and just continue doing the same old way of doing surgery. Now, if you go and see the hospitals in Singapore, and many Indonesians come to Singapore, you will realize the best doctors are not the old guys. It's the younger guys who are willing to try new things. All right? It's the same with pendetas. You'll find a lot of the old pendetas. The church is full of old people. The young people go away. And then where do they go? They go to a place where the pendeta is younger. He teaches the same thing. He teaches in a newer, fresher way. Okay? So, be careful, right? If you want to succeed in this century, you better learn to embrace change. And you cannot embrace change if right here, sitting here today, you're afraid of change. Right? Honestly, if you sit here and say, I don't want to change, okay, I can guarantee you, your church will get stuck. Slowly, your name will be bigger, your influence over people will be lower and lower. All right? Now, we call this in English comfort zone. You're comfortable doing things you've always done. Most of us love our comfort zones. We love the house we live in, the makan we used to eat. We like it the good old way. Sorry, 21st century, many new things are going to come. Secondly, why don't we try? We fear. Most of us fear. If I try and fail, what happens? I'll be malu. If I try and fail, my friends would laugh at me. I don't know. Why should I try? I already have a good church. I already have a lot of old people here. I'm nothing wrong with old people. But if your church is full of old people and there are no young people, I say you have no future. Right? So Number one, be willing to embrace change. Embrace means accept it happily and say, Daniel prophesied that. Why should I fight against God? God said, knowledge shall increase. And if I fight God, I'm a fool. Right? So, number two, all right, we show you some of the least safe jobs. Okay? It's quite interesting, huh? Some of you are not. Okay? A loan officer in the bank. All right? Have you ever thought about it? If they don't want to change job, 98% of all the people in the bank who will process your loans will have no job soon. Cashier in a restaurant, 97% will say bye-bye to their jobs because a machine can do it. A robot can do it. People who work for lawyers, all right, 94% chance, those who write agreements. Taxi driver, 89% chance. You know, in Singapore, there are vehicles now, there are mobiles now, there are buses now with no driver, all right? The technology, GPS and everything allows the vehicle to run, no driver, no steering wheel, all right? So if you're a taxi driver and you don't want to change, you'll be jobless, all right? Almost 90%, bye-bye, all right? You cannot eat, you cannot feed your family, all right? Fast food cook, like working in McDonald's, all right? 81% chance a machine can cook your burgers for you. All right, the safest jobs. Interestingly, I just quickly put it down. The last one right here is pendetas. All right? The chance of a pendeta losing their job to a robot, to a machine, is less than 1%. Okay? So don't worry. Okay? If you are a pendeta, your job is safe. But are you going to be an effective pendeta or an ineffective pendeta? Where nobody's listening to you, your church is getting less and less, older and older people, younger people all left. All right? Only the people with nothing to do on Sunday will come to listen to you. All right? Number two, you need to optimize technology. Let me just get my cell phone. Okay, this machine, this little thing here, people call it a phone. It's not even a phone. To be honest, I hardly ever use this as a phone. For me, this is my office. I write my emails, I talk to it, it writes my emails for me. If I need any appointments to be made, I talk to it, it writes my appointments for me. If I need to find a phone number, I ask, please call Mary, it calls for me. If I need to book a plane ticket, I can use this to book a plane ticket. If I want to read my Bible, it's here. If I want to check the Greek and the Ibrani in my Bible, it's here. If I want to find out about Bahasa verse, not the English Bible, it's here. Everything is here. If I want to talk to you now in Sianta, in Tarutong, I don't need to fly. I talk to you here. I can use Skype. All right? I want to do a seminar. In the past, I had to take a plane, go to Kuala Namu, take 8 hours to go to Tarutong. Today, I'm talking to you here in my place here. All right? So this is amazing. It makes my work so easy. I can work with people in 7, 8, 9 countries without leaving my home. I can train pendetas right here. I can study right here. I don't need to go to a library. Every book I want to read, I can find here. All right? So if I optimize technology, I become more effective. Of course, some of you are very frightened of technology. All right? And this surprises me. You are Lutherans. Lutherans should be the last group of Christians to be frightened from technology. You say, why? Because Martin Luther, 500 years ago, all right, was the best user of the technology 500 years ago. All of you know history. church history. How did Martin Luther start the Protestant Reformation? What did he do? You know your church history. He wrote 95 protests on a piece of paper. And he took that piece of paper, went to his church door, he nailed the protest on the church door. Hey, if he just left that protest on the church door, how many people will read it? Only the people of his church. They will come, okay. But Luther was smart. Luther said, I just don't want my people to read it. I want the whole of Europe to read what I wrote. And Luther was very smart. He used the latest technology that was available 500 years ago. And that technology, today we call it the printing press. Before, when you wanted to write something, you use a pen and write. You want to write this 95 protests, take you half an hour. But when Luther wrote this, another man called Gutenberg invented the printing press. And so Luther said, I want all this, print it for me. And that man could print at this speed. Doom, 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 doom. A new sheet came out. All right? And Luther could print thousands of copies and give it to everybody. And all the people said, whoa, this is true. Not the people in Luther's church, the people of Europe saw it because of technology. What did Luther do? He optimized technology. I'm so malu that Lutherans today are the most fearful to utilize technology. Without this doom, 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 doom printing press, there would be no Reformation. None of you would be believers today because the Lutheran Reformation would only be in one little gereja instead of all over Europe. You know, there are pendetas who ask me this, Pa, can we read the Bible inside this thing? I said, why not? But the Bible is holy. Please, the words of the Bible are holy, not the paper which you print it on. When you put words on in focus, does it become unholy? Does John 3:16 become unholy? Because you have a different way to put it? It's the words that are holy. Don't change the words. But whether you want to talk it, whether you want to write it, whether you want to print it, whether you want to in focus it, same words. The words are holy, not paper. There's no holy paper, there's holy Bible. The Bible is not the paper, it's the words on the paper. All right? So I hope many of you will understand, okay, that God gave Luther the way to spread the good news, to spread the Injil. And he used it. And today we are beneficiaries. And then we will not use technology to help others hear the Injil. That's why 90% of Indonesia have not heard the Injil. Why? Because we don't want to give it. If Luther was here, he would be the first one to scold us, all right, that we are not optimizing technology. In fact, we are so malu. You know how ISIS, terrorists, who are most of the terrorists? Orang muda. Why the orang muda want to listen? Because it is given to them by technology. Most of them get their theology by the Facebook. And their theology, terrorist theology, is given to them. ISIS knows how to optimize technology for bad things. We don't know how to optimize technology for good things. Malu kali for us, all right? So I hope that we, all right, as Lutherans, and most of you are Lutherans here, remember your church history. You didn't go to STT to study church history, to Lulus, to pass. You went it so you can learn something, all right, from Martin Luther. How many of you today are using this to communicate with your young people? How many? Sending a verse, sending encouragement, warning them. How many? None. Why? Takut of technology. Huh? And you say, The young people are not coming to church. How can I influence them? They don't come. You don't need to come. You can send them this. All right? Because God's word is powerful, whether it is in here, whether it is in the Al-Kitab, all right, or whether in focus. God's word is powerful. All right? So I hope we will optimize technology. All right? And you can reach your young people. If ISIS can reach young people to make them terrorists, can you reach your young people to make them evangelists? Right? Number 3, love learning. You know, in the past, in most countries, the most respected 2 professions, doctor and pendeta. Almost everybody in the past, whenever they need advice, they go to their doctor if they are not going to church, or they go to their pendeta if they're not going to church. They'll ask, I want to marry this girl. Is it good? I want to go to Medan. Is it good? Pendeta, help me. Tell me. I want to change job. Can you advise me? Today, all right, almost nobody goes to a pendeta for advice. Because according to surveys, most countries, one of the least respected jobs is pendeta. Most young people will say, why would I ask my pendeta? He doesn't know anything. He only goes up there on the bimba and talks about the Bible. Everything else goes home. Don't waste time to ask the pendeta. So sad. Young people, almost all Christians are getting advice from internet, from their kawan, and not from God's servants. Why? Because they don't respect us. We have no more respected because we know nothing other than the Bible. Some of you will say, but the Bible is all we need. That's rubbish. Everything in the Bible is true. Listen carefully. Everything in the Bible is true, but not everything true is in the Bible. 2 plus 2 is 4. Is that in the Bible? So you don't study Mathematica? Study Bible cukup? You need to study mathematics, Bahasa Indonesia, all right, politics, many things. Engineering is not in the Bible. Today, if you want to influence people, you want to be a leader that people look up to, listen to, take advice from, I suggest you continue to learn. Now, in the past, learning can only be done in special places, STT, universitas, library. Today, I learn here. I don't buy books. I don't buy paper. I learn here. There's plenty of things, good things, also plenty of bad things. Avoid the bad things. Use the good things in your cell phone. All right? Now, we have to communicate differently. All right? Because the new generation is a visual generation. Our time, your grandfather's time, there was no TV. They could sit down and listen to the radio for hours. No problem. All right? Because they were used to listening. Today, most young people cannot listen to the radio. They must see TV or they must see on their internet because they want to see images. Today's young generation, right, are always visual. Okay? So, you as a pendeta, you must learn to communicate to this generation that is used to television, not radio. When I was at school, I was told that an average student can pay attention for about 35 minutes. In other words, you go to class for 35 minutes, you will listen to your teacher. Today, young people's attention span is very low. And I've asked many pendetas, what do you think is the average attention span of today's generation? And many would say, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. Let me tell you, all right? According to research, young people today, in most cities, their attention span is 8 seconds. Right? You say, really? 8 seconds they lose their attention span? Why? Because they have a distraction. You know, in the past when I was in my class, my teacher is boring, bosan. What can I do? Look at my fingers, bite my nails, look out of the window. It's also bosan looking out of the window. Today, if my teacher is boring, what do? I pull out my cell phone, I book out my Facebook, and I look. Hey, interesting. So, most young people will give only 8 seconds to the pendeta. Okay, pendeta is going up to the bimba. I will listen to him. And then he walks up slowly, buka Alkitab, adjust the microphone. And the young person is already, tolonglah, 8 seconds sudah habis. So boring. This will come out. And he will look. And then you say something interesting, he will listen to you. But if your interesting is not really interesting, back to Facebook. You see, my dear pendeta friends, you have world-class competition in this phone. If you are not world-class in being interesting, your people, your Jumaat, all have competition. They have very, very interesting things inside here. All right? So that's why most young people don't go to gereja anymore. Too boring. I tidur at home is better. Right? And you will see, if the young people go to a gereja, they go to a gereja where the pendeta understands. I have 8 seconds. Interesting. And then by 7 seconds, their mind already ready to lari to something else, to their Facebook. Another interesting thing comes. Every 8 seconds, you have to come up with something that will grab them to come back and put this in their pocket. All right? So if you don't understand this, only the old people will sit there because they have nothing else to do. All right? They don't know how to buka their Facebook. All right? And you will have these people. All right? And some of them will become peka after a while. Even they will not listen to you. All right. Number 5, build partnerships. In the past, every gereja worked within their GKPI, HKBP, GKPS. You work only within your group. Why? How to communicate with someone outside? I do not know him. I cannot walk to his gereja, knock on the door. Hello, I'm from HKBP. Can I talk to you? Cannot. It's not normal. Today, we can all meet here. Today in PIC, people from different churches are here. We learn from one another. Ah, your church do this. Bagus sekali, ah. All right, I can learn this. Oh, your church do this. I can learn this. And what do? We get better when we build partnerships. You know, President Jokowi is very pintar. How does he make Batak land? How does he make Danau Toba become successful? Tell all the Bataks, work harder, build hotels. Matilah. What does he do? He brings people from other places, from Bali, from Singapore, from Hong Kong. All right, we all sit down, we think, how can we make Toba, Danau Toba, a tourist destination? Bupati Samosir came to Singapore. The first thing he said to me, Pa, I want to learn from Singapore. And everywhere he went, he looked, he learned. He understands by having partnerships, we can do things better. And today, I heard the tourist number in Samosir night, very, very fast. Why? Good leader, good Bupati, thinker. He knows building partnerships with Koreans, with Japanese, with China, everything will make Samosir, Danau Toba, the new tourist destination for Indonesia. What does he understand? He's a leader. What does he understand? Build partnerships. We are leaders here. What do? We hide in our own little church, right? And wonder why we never improve. Okay, lastly, in Daniel it says you must be able to run to and fro. We must be willing to move anywhere. Right? Because these are the last days. You don't say, oh, I'm a Santa boy. I'm a Medan boy. I'm a Tarutong boy. Please. You must say, I'm a Tarutong boy. I'm proud to be a Tarutong boy. But if there's a need in Sianta, I will be there. We can work together. And if I have a need in Tarutong, I call my Sianta brothers, come and help me, and we can work together. Willingness to move. Today you see the PIC team here. They come from different parts of Tanah Batak. Because we have this event here, they come from different parts, work together and make a good event. All right? You're not a Tarutong boy. You're God's boy. You're God's man. Okay? So I hope these 6 things we can get and understand. If I don't have these 6 things, if I don't understand these 6 things, I don't belong in this century. Because God has already told us hundreds of years ago, this is going to be very special times. I end with this. Some people have, after this seminar, they'll come to me, but I want to change. But my gereja, they don't want to change. My Iporus doesn't change. My Sekjen doesn't change. How can I change? I give you this advice, right? Don't talk about others. Start with yourself. Let me give you a story before I end. When I was a young man, I said, I want to change the world. I want to make the world a better place. Then I got married. You know what? I can't even change my wife. One lady, I can't change. How can I change the world? Then I got Anna. You know what? Even the little Anna, I find so hard to change. I try to change them, but they don't change. You know, then I realized something. My business is first to change myself. When I change myself, then God buka pintu for me to change others. But if I don't change myself, why should God use me to help others to get better? Right? So let me end with this. This seminar is not for your gereja. This seminar is not for your Iporus. This seminar is for you. Are you willing to change? God is interested in you. If you are willing to change, God is willing to use you to make a change. I hope this has been useful, and I hope you will start thinking about it. I hope you'll ask questions at the end of it, and I hope I can answer your questions. God willing, I hope to see some of you again one day, maybe here where you are in Sumatra, or maybe in Singapore when the PIC team comes to Singapore for their visit to Singapore. Thank you very much, and God bless you.